Hi, hello and welcome to Journey Towards Wealth. In the previous video, we have already discussed about two important aspects for planning for your savings or for your retirement on how to go about with the savings for retirement. First and foremost was to start early. You need to start your investment early. And the second is for having a realistic budget. Realistic goals, to set a realistic goal for your retirement. Now comes the third important aspect, which is how to set a budget. You need to have a monthly budget and you need to follow that budget for you to be successful for saving money for your retirement. So let's understand what exactly is budget. Budget is an estimate of your income and your expenses. So income means the total income that comes into your family, which is your salary income. It can be your other side hustle income. It can be your income from rentals. It can be your dividend income, your interest income. So whatever be the incomes that you're receiving, the total of all that income, you need to have an estimate of that, and then you have to have an estimate on your spending or your expenses. That is, what all are you spending the money on, where your groceries, your utilities, your housing, the payments, whether it's a mortgage or rent or your car payments. So whatever expenses that you are making, you need to have an estimate of that. So budget is nothing but an estimate of your income and expenses. There are various ways you can budget. Either you can write down on a paper or on a book on a daily basis your budget or your income and your daily expenses, or you can have an Excel sheet where you will be updating your income and your expenses. Or the third option would be to use some apps which would be helpful for you to track your budget. The third most important aspect or the process of how to save for your retirement is to set your monthly budget and to stick on to it. There are various types or systems of monthly budget. You need to figure out what is it that suits your individual requirement and then follow through those budget systems. There are three types of budgeting systems which are followed normally. One is the most commonly used, which is 50-30-20 budget. This is basically you are allocating the total take home income of yours into 50% towards your needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% towards your savings, investment, or repaying your debt. So now let's understand what are your needs. Needs are all essential or necessary spending for you. Basically, it is the rent or the mortgage payment, the groceries, the utilities. These are expenses which cannot be avoided. These are your needs. And wants are non-essential spending. These are the items that you can live without. It's not necessary that you need to have them, but you have it because those are your wants. And then comes the 20% which is taken towards your savings, investments, or paying off your debt. So that's how your spending will be. This is the most easiest of the budgets to follow because you do not have too much complication in it. You just have to assign the amounts for each of it. This is somewhat an easy type of budgeting system because you are not tracking each and every penny that you are spending. This is usually suitable for people who are starting new on budgeting and who doesn't want to get overwhelmed by the whole process of budgeting. So if you are an aggressive saver and investor, or if you're looking for a financial freedom, this is not the kind of budget that you need to follow. Starting point for most people in terms of budgeting, once you get used to this kind of system, you can actually then try to refine it according to your requirements. Then you can look at something like 80-20, which is 80% will be used for your needs and wants, and 20% at the beginning itself will be allocated towards your investment, savings, or debt repayment. Or another option is 70-20-10, where 70% will be used for your needs and wants, and 20% will be used for your debt repayment, and 10% will be used for savings in case you are a high debt individual. Also, you can use the 70-20-10 in the reverse way, which is 70% towards your needs and wants, 20% towards your savings and investments, and 10% towards your debt in case you do not have too much debt to repay. So you can actually tweak it according to your individual requirement and make various variations on this. But the first step is to get used to the 50-30-20 budget to start off with. Once you're comfortable with it, you can look at various options according to your individual requirements. Next type of the budgeting system is zero-based budget. Basically, the idea here is you have to ensure that your income minus expenses becomes zero. Basically, what you do is you treat all your expenses, savings, investment, and debt repayment, all of it as expenses. So here the process is, first you add up all your income. That is your income from your salary, your income from your business, your side hustle income, your rental income, your dividend income, your interest income, all the incomes that you have to add it up. And then you have to deduct your expenses from it. Expenses here also include your savings, your investment, your debt repayment, and all the expenses that you're incurring. So basically, at the end of this calculation, it comes to zero. This is called a zero-based budget. This is an example to understand zero-based budgeting in a better way. For example, here the total income from salary, side hustle and dividend comes to 40,000, and total expenses including your EMI and savings and investment comes to 40,000, which means the total expenses minus total income, total income minus total expenses comes to 0, which is 40,000 minus 40,000. So basically the idea here is, at the end of the month, your total income and your total expenses should negate each other. It should be in a way that at the end of the month, there is not a single penny which is not accounted for. You should have an account for each and every money that you spend. That is the beauty of zero-based budgeting. The advantage of this method is you have a track for each and every money that you are spending, whether it is towards your expenses or towards your savings, investments, or your repayment of EMI. But whatever it is, you have an account for each and every penny that you are spending. And the amount of money for each expenses or each category has already been allocated. In case there is an overspending in one category, you need to actually adjust it through underspending in another category. For example, if your grocery budget is around 10,000 rupees and in a month if you have already spent 12,000 rupees, then you need to adjust another category like your outing or your dining out. That category you should reduce it and adjust for this extra spend that you have done in groceries, because you have already accounted for each and every penny that you are earning. So in this case, there is no way that you will actually spend more than what you have actually planned for in each month. This is a very good advantage of this particular method. Another thing that we need to note here is, this kind of budgeting needs a good amount of tracking from your side. Each month you need to keep tracking about your expenses so that you are not having an overspend in any category and your budget is maintained well. I'm consuming method because you need tracking to be done regularly, and especially for beginners this might be a difficult one to follow. So based on your situation, you need to choose which budget you want to follow. Third type of budgeting system is called pay yourself first budget. This is also known as reverse budgeting strategy, where you're building your spending plan around your savings goals. Here, the priority is given for your savings goals and not on your expenses or your spending. This system of budgeting helps you to achieve or to reach your savings goals or debt reduction goals fastest. But there is another drawback for the system, which is you are not able to actually track your expenses, and we will not be able to understand if there are any unnecessary spending happening. So this needs to be considered when you are following this system. This is a system which has worked very well for our family, because once we receive our income, allocate a fixed percentage for our savings and investment, and with the rest of the money available, we manage our spending. So it works for our family, but we do not know what exactly will be working for individual family. So you need to actually tweak your budgeting requirement and find out what best suits you. Another type of budgeting is called envelope system or envelope system of budgeting. This is not a discussed category of budgeting, or this is not well discussed category of budgeting. This is usually applicable when you withdraw a particular amount from the bank and you ensure that you do not go back to the bank and spend your expenses based on this particular money withdrawn. This works well when you want to ensure that you're not having any overspending or you want to limit your spending. Basically, what happens is you withdraw a monthly amount of around maybe 10,000 rupees, and then you actually allocate that money into various categories like your utilities, your grocery spending, your transport spending, whatever different categories that applies to your family, and you put that specific amount into that envelope. So basically, if you have named an envelope as utilities, then whatever money specific to utilities you will put in that envelope. Same way you will prepare envelope for your transport, you will be preparing an envelope for your groceries. For all the categories you will be having your envelope. So basic idea is, in that month whatever money needed for that particular category will be taken from that envelope and used. And once you exhaust the money in that envelope, in that month you will not be able to spend any money on that particular category of expenses. So this is another way of ensuring that you have a control on your expenses, and also you will know how much money you have withdrawn from your income each month. So tracking becomes much easier with this kind of budgeting system. Having gone through the various budgeting systems or the types of budgets, now you would have got a fair idea about which would be the system that will suit your individual requirements. Especially if you're a beginner, if your family has not done any budgeting before or have not gone through the process, the best is to go through the 50-30-20. But if you have been doing a budget for some time and you're ready to go to the next level, then you can look for zero based budgeting or pay yourself first budgeting. For us, we started our budgeting, we started writing down our expenses around 12 to 13 years back when we started our journey. And those days, what we used to write is, we used to write down our expenses on how much we used to spend on a day-to-day basis. Yes, it was not an easy process. It was hectic because you had to remember all your expenses on a day-to-day basis and write it down. At the end of the month, we would actually put it on an Excel and chart it out on a diagram or whatever format was suitable for us, we used to do. This was very helpful for us, especially over a period of 6 months. We were able to identify those unnecessary expenses that has happening on our end. With this identification, we were able to reduce our spending by around 20% because there were so many expenses which were unnecessary. But because we were not writing it before, we were not noticing those expenses. So writing down our expenses became an eye opener for us, and then we started refining the process. Now over a period of past 10 years, 11 years, now we have got used to it. Now we do not write our expenses. Now we have been habituated to ensure that we do not spend beyond a particular amount. That has been habituated, and our family has been able to go through this process successfully over the past couple of years. Again, initially it took us a lot of effort to get used to writing expenses, to tracking expenses, and then each month to understand whether things are within the budget or are we overdoing things. So all of this took time, but believe me, at the end of the day it was a successful journey for us. So budgeting to a large extent is one single factor which will help you towards your financial freedom, and finally to save enough for your retirement days, to have enough corpus to have a successful retirement. So please do not underestimate budgeting in your financial planning. It is one of the most important part for a successful financial planning. Now we have covered the various aspects of the budgeting. And now let's conclude this video. We will discuss further on other topics in the coming up videos. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for your time.